What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Cause we took a little while, right? We were on a little hiatus,
Yeah, we
right,
were.
and everything like that. Our voices are gone.
Yes.
Why are our voices gone, Carlos?
Well, San Diego won 4-2 on
That's right.
Saturday.
That's right.
So we were celebrating that all night.
That's right.
And then two, we had to wake up early because we went all the way to Club World Cup stage game.
Yeah, group stage game,
Yeah.
Club World Cup. We've seen PSG versus Atletico Madrid. That was a dope game.
Yeah, I wish we could talk about that all day
Yeah.
because it was so much fun.
But we're not the PSG bros.
Yeah.
We're not the Atletico Madrid bros. We're the SDFC bros.
Yes.
So guys, welcome back to another match review video. We took a little break a little bit, right? SDFC was on international break as well, so we kind of took a little break with them.
Yeah.
But we're back. We're back in the grind. We're here to talk about the Minnesota United game, right?
Exactly.
Second place versus third place. So crazy game. But guys, if you guys are new here, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. You should check us out on Instagram at SDFC Bros and TikTok on SDFC Bros. So guys, make sure you guys check that out. Link in the description. Let's get into this, Carlos.
Let's get into it.
Let's get into
A lot
this.
of fun stuff to talk about.
A lot of fun stuff to talk about. So like I said, second place versus third place. And for me, at least, right, we previewed it on our Instagram, right? We'd be playing the top three teams in the West
Right.
in the month of June. And it would be a very tough pair of matches, right, going into it. My thoughts going into it, I was very nervous, right? On top of that, we were missing a lot of players from international break, right? Luca De La Torre, who's with U.S. men's national team. Anibal Godoy is
Yes.
with Panama, also for the Gold Cup. Patty McNair injured and Chucky Lozano injured. 4 starters out for this game. So what were you kind of thinking about going into this match versus third place Minnesota United away from home as well?
Yeah, I think it was one of those first scary moment games. I think the other one where I could say kind of felt like that was Charlotte.
Yeah.
Just because we just saw on paper how good they were and how the run that they were going into, so it kind of felt the same going against Minnesota. We're away, we haven't performed well away, and who knows? This team has been doing amazing.
Right.
But ultimately, Minnesota is third place, so it's just it felt more of a statement, and it was scarier, to go into this game. San Diego needs to win this game, not just for, because if we lose, we're in third place,
Right.
and we're still in the same thing. But I think it was, if we lose, we're just saying oh, are we ready for playoffs? Are we ready for things? But if we win, we're showing that we are important, and we're going to take these important games seriously, and really, can we be that threat? And right now, it goes and shows that it looks like we can be that threat.
Right. Yeah, no, definitely. I was very nervous going into this game. I was very pessimistic, right? I know you're kind of the opposite side. I'm very optimistic.
Right.
You're pessimistic, but for me, I was thinking, a draw or a loss just because of our away form, right? It's not really the greatest in the world, and on top of that, you're playing a very tough opponent as well, right? Even these Minnesota, they tied against Vancouver, right? So it's you're talking about a team that, knows how to deal in tough situations and against top opposition as well. So I wanted to read the lineups because this was one that was fairly different from what we're kind of used to, obviously with the absences from the first team and everything like
Right.
that. So standard formation 4-3-3, but we've seen obviously CJ Dos Santos in goal, Oscar Verhoeven at that right back spot filling in for Willie, which we really like an Oscar Verhoeven in these last couple games. Chris McVeigh obviously stays there. Ian Pilcher, our boy,
Of
gets
course.
the start.
Glad
which
he's back.
I'm glad he's back, and
Yeah.
actually he got an assist,
Which was
versus
amazing, yeah.
Anders. So we'll get to that later. But Luca Bombino slots into that left back spot. Alvarado goes in for Godoy. Yepes Verskov obviously stays in there. Oni Valakari goes into the midfield. Dreyer at right wing. Marcus Ingvartsen gets his first
Back,
start
yeah.
since coming back from injury. And then our boy Alex Maiton as well gets that start at left wing. So I was really excited to see Marcus back in the lineup and everything like that, especially after that injury. Obviously
Exactly.
kind of brings that experience, everything like that. So when you were kind of looking at the lineup, did anything kind of pop out at you in particular?
No, I think looking at the lineup, it kind of something that we thought was going to happen.
Right.
The change in the midfield was different, and it was going to be it kind of shocked me, how is it going to work? What can work? But ultimately, throughout the game, as we're going to get into it, you start seeing why it's working stuff. I think one of the biggest things that we can always keep praising is I think Valakari shines very much better in the midfield
Yeah.
than he does in that striker position.
Right,
we keep
right.
putting him in. So it's okay, well, we know how he's going to play. I think he plays a really good midfielder position. Alvarez, again, he's young, so he's kind of getting his footing in. But again, as we go into this, like he's a quiet one out of the bunch. You know what I'm saying? You're not always hearing. He comes in and he does his role, but nothing ever spectacular. So it wasn't anything like that. But as we're gonna get into this, he really held his own weight, and I think everybody did.
Yeah, I'll say this was Alvarado's best game.
Right.
I think out of all the cameos we've seen from him, I think this was his best one, especially filling in some big boots.
Exactly.
For Godoy as well. So the early commotion, right? Own goal from Chris McVeigh, just a complete miscommunication out the back with CJ Dos Santos. Genuinely, I think this is the first big mistake we've seen from the defensive line and from this team, but we respond really early, 3 minutes with Anders' halfway goal. And like I said, that was Ian's assist.
That's
was
crazy.
The halfway goal. So what were you kind of thinking about, like, early on, right? You see that mistake going on. What do you think was going through the player's head, and what was going through Anders' head? He's like, I'm going to have a go, or what's going on?
I don't know. I think after that first goal, I think we kind of all were just like, well, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? Like, there was just like a shift in, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. But I guess as a keeper, you have those mistakes. You know what I'm saying? We can't be mad. It's how many games into the season?
18.
18. We played 18 games already? Yeah. That's crazy. 18 games into the season, and we've had a mistake from CJ Dos Santos like that. Like, it happens. Accidents happen. Things happen like that. Obviously, we don't want them to happen. Obviously, they're paid a lot of money to not make those mistakes, but they did, and it sucks. The reality is, though, that San Diego responded, and San Diego responded very well because Anders Dreyer sees the goalie out and just says, let's take a shot at it. And it's perfect. It's a beautiful shot. And we've had so many players try to do that on us against Dos Santos, and it has not happened. So the fact that the first time we have an attempt at it, Dreyer puts it back. And of course, it's going to be only one person, and it's going to be Dreyer.
It's got to be him.
I also liked where Dreyer was playing kind of in that. He played kind of back there. I don't know what he was doing in that center. But it happened, and he took a shot at it, and we always keep saying, through, we want players to take shots instead of doing that passing game.
Took that shot.
And he took that shot. So it went through. I think we were all shocked. I don't think we were all waiting for it. 3 minutes after that goal was insane. But
yeah, definitely. I think it was interesting because we're used to seeing a San Diego team when they go down. It takes a while for them to kind of get back into the game and everything like that. But now you're seeing this team play with a lot more confidence and without fear at all. And how much of a difference does that play into a game when you play like that versus what we've seen from San Diego FC, from this San Diego FC team play in the early stages of the season?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is that when you see like how San Diego was playing in the beginning of the seasons, it was almost like I don't know, like when you learn a lesson and you just try to do it or like you say you start a new job, you do it the exact way somebody taught you to do it. So you're going to do it that way. Right. But as the season progresses, you start, like, again, at a new job, you start saying, okay, well, this person taught me this way, but I can take what they've taught me, but do it in a better, like, more way that I feel more comfortable in. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing from San Diego. See, in the beginning, it was like, well, we're taught this way, so it was super, like, structured.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Super, like, it has to be this pass, it has to be that. And now, as the season's progressing and things are going, that chemistry is building so much more, so it feels a lot more fluid. It feels more like water instead of this rigid thing that was like a cog. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's gonna turn. You have to fit it in this way or whatnot. Now it's like flowing and
flowing.
Yeah, flowing. Yeah, literally. It's literally flowing. You know what I'm saying? It, like exactly what it says. Flow with that.
Right.
And it becomes this swift moving game that we're playing. And again, like our friends keep always talking about like MLS and like, oh, MLS is such a bad thing. But really seeing San Diego soccer, I think it's one of the better performances that you see from an MLS team, where it literally feels like the closest thing to like, again, this is such a far
like the European style.
Yeah, but it feels the closest to that.
Right.
Because obviously they make a ton of mistakes and everything like that. But it feels the closest to that because it really does flow naturally with the thing and not this weird structured movement that it was in the beginning.
Yeah, no, certainly. I 100% agree with that take. And I mean, that's a good analogy, right? When you start a new job, right, you do things the way that you're taught, right? But then, it's always when you're training someone, you're like, oh, well, this is how you're supposed to do it, but this is the way I do it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, no, that's a good point. However, unfortunately, right before the half ended, Kelvin Yeboah, right, my Italian boy from Genoa, gave Minnesota the lead right before the half. But to be honest, I was not worried about San Diego going into the next half, because I remember you telling me when we were in Mr. Tempo, which shout out to Mr. Tempo, not Mr.
Tiempo, which we have thought for the longest time.
Yeah, some Mandela effect.
Yeah.
But Mr. Tempo, we were there, right? You were telling me when we were in the bar and everything like that, and that San Diego FC is a second half team. Right. And on top of that, we made some halftime substitutions to help us get into gear in that second half. And thanks to a handball in the box, we were rewarded with a penalty. Dreyer steps up, bags it. A little questionable, right? It was a weird run up, right? A little nervy, but it went in, right? And that's what matters at the end of the day. Went over the line. And in this game, man, Anders just had his fingerprints all over this one. 2 goals and an assist. He's just been remarkable this season, right? And just the goal scorer, right? That side of the game, but he's also a provider, right? And I've just been so happy with how he's kind of dictated these games, because, right, we always talk about, we want a player who kind of grabs a game by the scruff of the neck and really dictates matches on his own. And he's exactly one of those players. When he gets the ball, you kind of stay on the edge of your seat because you don't know what he's going to do. He can score from halfway, right? Where he can, provide, which that Iloski goal that he had, and we'll talk about later, was just something that, you don't see from a player like him. And he's hands down in these MLS MVP conversations with the likes of Messi, right? And that's no exaggeration. I'm really saying that Dreyer is on that level of, MVP conversations, right? 16 goal contributions in 18 games. Insane. 8 goals and 8 assists across those matches. So, yeah. And so I know, I kind of talked to you about like Dreyer and everything like that, but what has been his role like as a player? Like when you're playing on a team and you see a guy like Anders kind of dictate the game, what is your role as a player to kind of help him succeed in a team like this? What do you got to do?
Like if I'm not Dreyer.
Yeah, if you're not Dreyer, if you're like an Alvarado, right? What do you have to do to make sure Dreyer is in those positions to succeed?
Yeah, I think just support him as much as you can. And I think also, but like outside of the technical, like mentally, just like kind of allow him to feel he has the freedom to do kind of what he wants a little bit, because like when he kind of like steps out of that box, like we talk about that, like the cogs or whatever, he just shines like drastically. And I think kind of like where I want to touch base on like going into that is like, and I know like Chucky is amazing, like Chucky's great, and when we need him, but sometimes when we play with Chucky, it feels like we're still in that cog machine, you know what I'm saying? But the moment Chucky's out, sometimes it feels like Dreyer's ability to come out shows so much more. And so as a player like that, I think you just allow that flowness and allow him to feel confident to do those things and be there for him, just like Iloski was. And I think another time, I think Dreyer gave him a really good pass to cut across. Like, and I think just having that ability to make those runs and help him and support him is like just the best ability. But more than anything is give him the confidence to allow him to be more free. Which again, I think is our Achilles sometimes to having Chucky, is that we play so rigid with him sometimes. It's almost like we have to get the ball to Chucky, or Chucky does something differently than everybody else is used to, and it just changes the state of the game. Right.
No, I definitely empathize with that point as well, because I do sometimes see that, in our game where there's a lot of times where like Chucky needs to make that pass, but then he maybe wants to take it on his own, which I like the confidence. I think players should have 100% confidence to have that, opportunity to, have a go on goal. But I think more oftentimes than not, you see Dreyer really read the game a lot better than Chucky, I think, in some instances. So I do kind of understand where you're coming from on that point. And to your point, what I was going to say, another player who got on the score sheet, Milan Iloski. What a ball from Dreyer, and Iloski just heads the ball past to give us the lead for the first time in this game. And Iloski as well has been on some great form in these last couple of games, right? Against Club America, he got on the score sheet. And it's a shame that he's on loan. And there's that, saying, which shout out to Chris in our comment section, never fall in love with a lone player too late. Too late. I'm in love with Milan Iloski, right? Forza Milan, right?
Yeah, I mean, the dude even DM'd me, man.
Yeah, like, literally. So
he
slid in your DMs?
Yeah, no, I slid in his, and he just said thank you.
You slid in his?
Yeah, and he said thank you. So, I mean, he's for the people, man. That's the most important part. For the people from San Diego, just It's the best all around thing that you could ask for from a player. Just
Yeah.
like Milan is him. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? He's
Yeah.
him. And you could see it in the way he celebrates and the way he acts. Like,
Yeah.
dude is from San Diego. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, he is San Diego. He
Right.
represents San Diego so well. And it's just like, we need, I think we need to keep him, man,
Yeah,
as
he's
much
on
as
loan,
we can.
but surely we need to buy him, right?
Right, but again, just back to Chris's point, just don't fall in love with a lone player,
Yeah,
man.
no, I mean Tyler Heaps, man. If you're watching this, I know you watch every single game. He's cooking something behind the scenes.
he has to.
He's cooking something behind the scenes. I think when you have a player like this who not only, performs on the pitch, but he also has the relationship with the club, right?
Right.
We're still, trying to find like that player that's really attached to the club, right? We have Luca De La Torre, who's from San Diego, but I think he's not like of that personality, right? He's
Right.
very, kind of closed off a little bit, I think, which isn't a bad thing. I think, players like to express themselves in certain ways, but I really like how Milan is open about it and everything like that. And I just adore Milan. And
Yeah.
not only that, right, on the more emotional side of things, but the striker's instinct, just the pure, just like I said, instincts of what he has. He can smell the goal, right? He doesn't even have to look up, and he knows where the goal is in front of him, right? That header, right, from that ball from Dreyer, number one, just a peach of a ball.
Right.
But what Iloski gives you is not only just like heading ability or, striking ability, but he also has that threat of just making runs right in the right space in the right time.
I think one of the, and again, this is gonna be crazy, but I think this is like the most comparable player that I can conceive him to is like a Chicharito, where I know it sounds crazy, but Chicharito was playing in the Premier League
Sure.
and he had his crazy goals and stuff like that. But like Chicharito's ability to come in as a sub with Manchester United is like being able to be there and then be outside of what the team wants,
Right.
or put himself in a position that's not normally there and get able to go. And that was Chicharito's best ability. And it seems like Iloski, when he comes in, can switch up a game instantly because he is so hungry for goals and like just knows how to make a run or how to be there. Like, I can't tell you how many times we have crossed a ball in and it just goes nowhere. And the fact that we're crossing it in and Iloski's just in there to get a goal is just like, again, like he just knows where to be, make those runs, and is just like, again, like I said, the closest thing I can think of him is a Chicharito.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I think Chicharito's ability is a little different and everything like that,
Right.
but just like that's the closest thing I can think of a striker, like that mentality that he has.
Yeah, I think Chicharito's a little bit more unorthodox.
Right.
Right? I think he kind of, a little scrappy.
Exactly.
I think Iloski is more sharp.
Right.
Because it's like, I mean, and we'll get to his second goal, right? We are in control of this game, and we were wondering if we're going to get a fourth in the final minutes of the game. And Iloski, once again, he comes up big, and he makes at least, a 60 or 70-yard sprint to the goal, and just to kill the game, little outside the boot finish, and Mr. Tempo was going mad. So I think just that Iloski goal kind of just encapsulates what he can bring in that striker position for San Diego FC. And I don't know, obviously we don't have a lot of sample size from Marcus Ingvartsen, but I think what we've seen from Iloski, it's just second to none.
Right, and I think to your point when we were going back to like the Chicharito, he is just like a little unorthodox. But I think what we gain from Iloski, which is a little bit better, and again it's MLS,
Right.
is the ability that because he's so, you don't need to put him as a sub. He can be a starting player because he will get that goal. He's hungry for that goal, and you saw like. Still, like, we're 3-2, and it's that last things you could just kick it out. But he is still hungry for that goal, man, just to put it away.
Yeah.
And he makes that run. And, I mean, he's played, like, a whole half at this point and still no what's it called? Like, literally takes no fatigue, nothing, and still has the ability, after making that run, to be so confident to score that goal.
And outside the boot, that's not easy.
No, not at all.
That's not easy. And on top of that, he had, I think, one or two defenders behind him as well. So it's like you have that pressure knowing that, you have opposition behind you. And on top of that, you got a goalkeeper right in front of you as well.
And again, this doesn't happen like if he's not that hungry for it. You know what I'm saying?
That shot's not easy, right? Outside the boot finish, that's something that you don't see from a lot of strikers. And I mean, with the talent like Iloski, I think we got to buy him. We got to buy him. I know, we steal a lot of players from Nordjylland and everything like that, but we got to close the deal.
No, yeah, I think it's one of those things that need to happen. We've been asking and begging for a striker that we need, and I think we would be doing a really big disservice because this is the type of striker that fits in perfectly with everything that we're building in this system, and he fits in so well.
Yeah.
And it's would be just so, I think really, and I think this probably will be one of the most negative things that I say about the club, like in this season, will be the dumbest decision possible to let him go, because he fits every category that you can't ask for anything more. You genuinely can't ask for anything more, and to say no, we're gonna just let him be. And I get it, if he doesn't want to be.
If he wants to continue his career in Europe,
yeah,
fair enough.
But
Right.
if it's on the table and it's not because we didn't ask, then it's the dumbest thing that the club could do, because to sit here and be like, oh, let's get a star striker, let's get something else, and to force them into this when we have a star-studded man who fits into our system well, who goes and just the ability to do that, and it was just going to be one of the dumbest things we do as a club.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that point. It's like, I don't think there's any point of, going on the market searching for someone who not only doesn't have the talent like Iloski, but also the connection to the club, right? To the badge, to the city, and everything like that. And he's already a fan favorite. You know what I mean? I mean, Escondido goes nuts every time he scores a goal, right?
Right.
In 11 games, right, for Iloski, 5 goals. And he came, in March,
right,
maybe April. So it's like his integration in this team. And I mean, I think that's credit to coaching, right? Mikey Varas, tip my hat to you. You got this game 100% right.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that's one thing, but also it's like when you have a player like that who's, to your point, hungry and, willing to kind of, put, an extra, 10 minutes on the line for the team to make that sprint like that. I don't think you can't buy that.
No, you can't. And it's not like he's come in and just scored on stupid games. Like he's scored important goals before.
I mean, he scored the 3rd goal of this game.
Right, exactly.
To give us the lead.
And then he also scored against St. Louis to win the game.
Also true.
Against a St. Louis that was playing so far back that nobody could break through, and still just pulls it out of nowhere and scores.
Yeah.
And again, just pure striker difference. So it would just be a really sad news to hear he's gone.
Yeah.
Because he's a difference maker through and through. He needs to come in and start. And I mean, it's hard because you have a player like Invartsen, but I think it's clear as day. Our first half in that game, Invartsen, I couldn't tell you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I couldn't say anything.
No, I think that's the truth of the reality of the situation is, at the end of the day, football is a business about results.
Exactly.
Right? And if you're not grabbing results, and I know this was his first start, Ingvarsson, right? So I think that's like one thing to kind of consider. But I think, I think it was clear that Mikey Vadas wanted to win this game, right? I think, it's great, Ingvarsson, he's trying to get his feet back and everything like that. But, you have a guy like Iloski who's hungry and who's determined to kind of change a game and, to flip it on its head. And I mean, this performance, I think, just
exactly. And
that.
Mikey Vadas is not a person to make a sub that early.
Yeah.
He hasn't 18 games is the first time I've seen him make a sub that early.
Good point.
And he did. He made a sub right when he needed to make that sub. Milan needed to come into the game and change the way that the game was playing.
Yeah.
Again, I think it comes down to 2 things. I think there's a few players that are on our team that when they play, our game becomes more structured. Chuki's one of them. And I think Vartsen's another one, and I think wherever we play Valakari sometimes, but I agree with that. Put him like up top, we're putting our game becomes more structured and not.
It's a lot more one-dimensional.
Right. And again, I get it because it's really hard to carry this season out. Some days you need it to be structured. Some days you need it to be structured. But I'm gonna be honest, I don't think we beat this Minnesota team if we were not as
if we like follow the book.
Right, exactly. Right. I think this invited us to not be by the book. Having Mayan in there, having Milan come in, and again, in Vartsen, we had to play by the book. And thankfully, Dreyer puts that goal through. You know what I'm saying? Thankfully, we get the PK. But before that, after that, we didn't need those things. Milan Iloski came in and changed the game.
Yeah.
And again, from Dreyer and everything like that, that's beautiful. But
no,
it's too structured sometimes. And a game against teams that we don't need to be structured against, like Minnesota, and I'm sure against Vancouver coming up, it's going to be different.
Yeah, certainly. I 100% agree with that point, right? I think when you see San Diego being a lot more creative, that's where we get our best football. And
100%.
This, for me, was not only one of our better games, but against a top-class opponent like Minnesota, this was one of the big tests of the season, and I think we passed with flying colors. So with that being said, let's go to match ratings. So for me, I'm going to go first. I'm going to say an 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
I think this was sensational. I thought our offensive play was second to none. I really loved Iloski's cameo in this. And to your point, how you were saying that we got our best goals when he came on. So I'll say 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
But I think for me, I'm like a 7.5.
Fair.
Just because I think the first half we had more ability to come in, and if we didn't have Vartson, then things changed. But again, like 7.4, like yeah, high 7 for sure. Because it's just once he came in, like that's just the football we want to see, and
Yeah.
against such a great team, like it was just the most important win that we needed. Hopefully that carries on to Vancouver, but we haven't been playing great against in a way to come in and beat this and beat them with style.
Beat them with, yeah.
It was really important, and I think it's one of the better games of the season, and one of them that we're going to be talking about for a while.
Yeah, certainly. 100% agree. So let's talk about our position in the table.
Yes.
We're second place. We're 2 points behind Vancouver. In this game, right, our next match versus Vancouver, very well could see us at the summit of the Western
100%.
Conference. And I think that is something that is very interesting because I think a lot of us on our bingo cards for this season didn't have San Diego being in first place at all, right? And let's quickly preview this game versus Vancouver, and then we'll kind of get to, right, we're halfway through the season, and we'll talk about our thoughts. So with this Vancouver game, I'm very nervous because Vancouver is a very offensive team,
Right.
and I think with McNair out for, we don't really know what the period of time he's going to be out, and also with Kumado out as well, I think it kind of begs the question on how is our defense going to cope with an offensive juggernaut like Vancouver.
Right.
So I think that's kind of my only concerns in this game, because I think offensively, I think we can break down Vancouver. Even though they are one of the better defensive teams, I think with our creativeness and our ability to kind of, flip a game on its head with guys like Iloski and Dreyer and everything like that, I think that might play into our ability, but by any means, this is not going to be an easy game. So
Exactly.
what do you kind of think about this game?
Yeah, I think the exact same thing. But I think it's one of those games where, like, it's gonna come down to a lot of the players' ability to be willing to fight.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna be one of those tough games. It's gonna be one of those games where you're gonna have to go all out. If San Diego comes out how they were playing against Charlotte, God forgive us.
luck.
Yeah, protect us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But if they come out how they were playing against Minnesota, then it's gonna be way different. That's one. And I think second is just how Mikey, and I trust in Mikey Vadas, but how Mikey Vadas is going into this game is going to be really important, because I think this game is going to come down to not structure, but like the flow, like we talked about.
Sure.
And it's going to be coming down to very tactical decisions from Mikey Vadas.
Right.
I think the team is going to do the most that they can possibly do, put it on there. But if Mikey Vadas isn't setting it up correctly, which I don't believe that's what the case is going to be, it's going to be very hard.
Yeah.
But again, this is a game that needs to be won. There's no ands, ifs, or buts. There's not one where we could sit there and say, oh, like we lost, but we're still second place. Like, we need to win this game. And it's not just about winning this game because we need first place. It's to remind everybody and to show everybody we are not small. This is not a fluke. This is not a one-time thing. This is San Diego, and San Diego knows how to play. And San Diego should be on your list to sit there and say, on everybody's tip of the tongue, could they win the final?
Yeah.
Could they win the whole thing? Could they take the whole thing? And I think that's just the reality that we are having to start to see now. And against Vancouver, it's going to be an important point to make and put that exclamation point at the end and say, San Diego is a team that you can think will be in that final.
Yeah, great point. So let's kind of talk about kind of the lead up, right, to this point, right? In the very beginning of the season, right, we're talking about LA Galaxy, everything like that, all, maybe we can roll the dice a little bit. But when we interviewed Mikey Vadas, he said, we're going to go to LA Galaxy, we're not going to just lay on our bellies and, just have them walk all over us, right? So I think you're kind of seeing that translate to, I think, the players and everything like that. And it was really nerve-wracking to kind of see this roster build kind of, come up. And, we were so many question marks with this club and everything like that. But, I mean, credit to Tyler Heaps, who put a phenomenal roster build together. And, we started the season very high, right? We went, like, our first couple games undefeated, and then we hit that Austin game. And that's when kind of, I think, the roller coaster started to go down. So leading up to that point versus Austin, what were you kind of thinking like as a fan? Were you buying into the system, or were you kind of like, I'm gonna be a little bit apprehensive before I talk?
Yeah, I think I was a little bit more apprehensive after that Austin or before that Austin game
Right.
too, because it's like you don't know, and it's just could be like that first team jitters, first team whatnot, or the first thing that we do. It's just
Sure.
like no team has ever played us before, so they don't know how to act against us. But that's not the reality like that showed up. But even after the Austin game, it was just like, oh, you're scared now because what? Like, was it just a fluke?
Right.
And soccer is just so weird that you just never know. So I was always apprehensive to everything. But this team has, I don't know, outshined every aspect of the
Yeah,
game.
they're punching above their weight, and then
Right.
that kind of leads into the month of April, right, where it was an all-time low, 3 points the whole month, right? We just, what was it, 4 losses in a row or something like
Right.
that. It was rough. So I think at that point I was like, okay, this is the reality of what San Diego FC is gonna be, right? We were 6th place at the end of April, and at that point I was like, okay, this is kind of where I think we're gonna just stay, right? Kind of in the
Right.
middle of the pack, which isn't a bad thing. That was kind of like our expectation going in. But, that whole month of May, that was a turnaround. At the end of April, when you seen us in 6th place and everything like that, what were you kind of thinking?
Yeah, I think one of those biggest things was just like exactly what you said, like, okay, this is where we're going to stay, this is where we're going to be. But I think, I don't know, it's just one of those things where you like I don't know, like you get a new job, you kind of like are shifting in that. And I really thought like, oh, this is going to be the end, like this is where it's at. But the reality is that even after some of these games that you see, you knew San Diego could have won these. You know what I'm saying? Like there was just still like a little thing where it was just like, they should have won. Like, you know what I'm saying? That shouldn't have happened. I think, like I said, the only game where I could sit here and say like was Charlotte. But I think that's the poorest performance we have ever had from San Diego. But I think it was also a really big turning point.
Right.
But again, like all these games you saw, like we should have won, we should have won. So it was just kind of like in the back of the head, like what could go forward, what could change.
Yeah.
And something did. And I think what happened is like Mikey Varas. And I think if it wasn't for Mikey Varas, it wouldn't have been what it was
Right.
what it was today, because what you needed is to like literally squeeze every single drop out of those players, and Mikey Vadas has. Like he like squeezed it halfway, it was perfect, and then he needed to say, okay guys, like I understand it, but we need you to like you need to do this, and you don't do the way that San Diego was in April could have lasted the whole season.
Yeah.
But you don't get the result that we have now without a coach like Mikey Vadas.
I 100% agree with that. And, kind of speaking to that, Mikey Vadas, right, when he got appointed as coach, so much, negativity in the news.
Right.
He's not an experienced coach, But when you have a project like this where it's kind of centered around developing players,
Right.
and that's kind of his lane, right? He was coach of the U.S. men's national team, the youth teams, and everything like that. And, you're starting to see kind of why we chose Mikey Varas to be our coach. And, I mean, man, I give so much credit to him, because this isn't an easy job to kind of take a project like this where there's not really an expectation. So
Right.
I tip my hat to him 100%. And, I mean, that month of May, right, where we went undefeated up until when we played Seattle. But regardless of the fact is, when you take 16 points out of a possible 21, that is
Amazing.
It's amazing, right?
Right.
So, and that kind of leads us to the point we're at right now, where we're high flying right now. We're 2nd place, with possibly by the time that at the end of the month we'll be 1st. That's kind of crazy to think about, especially where we were at just 2 months prior.
Right, and I agree with you. I think our biggest game is going to be against Vancouver. We have proven so much, but you know what it is at the end of the day. The haters are going to hate, and if we can't beat Vancouver, it doesn't show. I mean, to us, it's going to show. Like, obviously, we see
Right.
this every day. Like, it's going to be tough. It's whatever, but we still believe in this team. But what we need to Vancouver is to show at the world, like, you can't. There's no more talking. You can talk. You know what I'm saying? Like it's us. We are what you didn't believe we were gonna be, and I truly believe that after this Vancouver game, we can carry this momentum until the end of the season. And like we have talked so much, like the season is long, and we've started from the beginning. But where San Diego is right now, I can see them like in the long run, in a marathon. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right.
It's not like a sprint anymore. I can genuinely see San Diego in that marathon mentality to keep carrying on, and I don't see where it's like a lull anymore. You know?
Right. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. So, guys, let us know what you think in that comment section below. What have you kind of made of San Diego FC's season? Is it kind of punching above their weight? Do you think they're kind of underperforming, which I think not at all by any means. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe you guys think that. But let us know in the comment section below. And also, what did you guys think about this game versus Minnesota? And obviously, what do you guys think about our next game versus Vancouver? So, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you guys check us out on Instagram at SDFC Bros and TikTok at SDFC Bros. Carlos, I don't know if you wanted to add anything special.
Yeah, I think just the most important part is just like we're in that halfway zone now. It or past it now. Minnesota probably was that, halfway marker. San Diego has shown out. The city has, the people have, the fans have, the team has, and I think it's been an amazing first season halfway journey with a lot of the fans, the players, everything. Me and Vince, producer Jazz, have just had an amazing time in these last 6 months, and I'm just really excited to see what's going to go forward in these playoffs. But I think it's just one of those moments where we can sit down and celebrate. And I think after Vancouver, which is going to be crazy, I think it's one of those moments where we could sit down and just smile and be thankful for everything that happens and what we've done, because we all deserve it. And it's been a great hell of a journey so far.
Yeah.
And I can't wait for more. But this team is special, man.
Yeah.
It's going to go down in history books.
Yep, definitely. So, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see y'all in the next video. Ciao, ragazzi.